Before fast food, frozen dinners, and drive-thrus, America was built at the dinner table, one humble meal at a time. From smoky stews that warmed frontier cabins to Depression-era dishes that stretched a single dollar, these forgotten dinners fed the workers, farmers, and dreamers who built the nation's backbone. Each bite told a story of struggle, of hope, of grit served with gravy. Tonight, we're uncovering 30 forgotten American dinners that fueled families through hard times and shaped the taste of a growing nation. Because survival always started with supper. Number 1. Salt pork and beans. Long before supermarkets or canning, this was the meal that kept settlers alive through brutal New England winters. Salt-cured pork simmered with dried beans in heavy iron pots for hours, the fat and salt infusing the beans with deep, smoky flavor. It was simple, hearty, and built to last, food meant to survive hunger and cold. Every colonist knew this taste, humble, salty, and sustaining. Around small fires and wooden tables, salt pork and beans weren't just dinner. They were endurance, made edible. The foundation of America's earliest kitchens. Number 2. Johnny cakes and molasses. Before sliced bread, there were Johnny cakes, crisp, golden cornmeal griddle cakes cooked on open fires. Made from corn gifted by native tribes, they became a symbol of early survival and adaptation. Settlers fried them with a bit of lard, then drizzled molasses on top for sweetness when sugar was rare. The texture was rough, the flavor honest, the taste of resourcefulness and cooperation. These humble cakes fed farmers, soldiers, and pioneers alike, proving that even the simplest ingredients could build a nation. Number 3. Homestead chicken stew. On the frontier, one chicken had to feed an entire family, bones, broth, and all. Farmers' wives simmered every scrap with onions, carrots, and flour to thicken the pot, creating a rich, savory stew that filled both bellies and spirits. Nothing was wasted, not a drop of fat or broth. This was food born from necessity and love, seasoned with patience. It wasn't fancy, but after long days in the fields, that bowl of chicken stew was comfort itself, a quiet promise that tomorrow, they'd keep building. Number 4. Pioneer corn chowder. As wagon wheels rolled toward the unknown, corn chowder became a staple of the American trail. Made with dried corn, milk, salt pork, and potatoes, it was hearty enough to feed a family with little effort. The pot bubbled slowly over campfires, while winds swept across the plains. Each spoonful was creamy, salty, and smoky, warmth in a world of uncertainty. For pioneers, corn chowder wasn't just a meal. It was the taste of home carried west, one bowl at a time. Number 5. Civil War hardtack and stew. During the Civil War, soldier survival often depended on a small piece of hardtack, a dry, rock-hard biscuit that lasted months. To soften it, they soaked it in stew or coffee, mixing it with salted beef and root vegetables when they could. The flavor was rough, the texture unforgiving, but it kept armies moving. Around smoky camps and battlefield fires, this meal was a lifeline. Hardtack and stew didn't just feed soldiers. They carried them through one of the hardest chapters in American history. Number 6. Scrapple. In Pennsylvania's early farm country, families learned to turn scraps into sustenance. Scrapple, made from pork trimmings boiled, minced, and mixed with cornmeal, was poured into pans, cooled, and sliced to fry crisp in the morning. The scent of sizzling pork filled kitchens before sunrise, the sound of survival in cast iron. It was a meal that honored thrift and hard work, proof that waste had no place in a farmer's home. Scrapple wasn't luxury. It was living proof that ingenuity could taste delicious. Number 7. Oyster stew. Before oysters became a delicacy, they were cheap and plentiful, the food of dockworkers and sailors. Oysters simmered in milk and butter, seasoned with salt and pepper, created a creamy stew that filled stomachs after long, cold days on the Atlantic. Served with bread or crackers, it was warmth in a bowl. Over time, this humble dish made its way into Sunday suppers and holiday tables, transforming from survival food to comfort tradition. The ocean's bounty once fed America's working class, one steaming bowl at a time. Number 8. Beef and potato hash. When leftovers met creativity, hash was born. Farmers' wives and factory workers alike turned bits of roast beef and boiled potatoes into sizzling skillet suppers. Chopped, fried, and crisped golden with onions. Hash was the original no-waste dinner. The smell alone brought families to the table. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest. The flavor of thrift, of stretching what you had just a little further. In tough times, beef hash didn't just feed the body. It reminded every American household that nothing was ever truly gone. Number 9. Cornbread and collard greens. In the rural South, dinner was grown, not bought. Cornbread, baked in heavy cast iron, was the daily bread of working families, while collard greens simmered slow with salt pork and vinegar. Together, they created a perfect balance of earth, salt, and soul. This meal nourished sharecroppers, freed families, and generations of laborers who built the South's backbone. It wasn't about luxury, it was about pride, perseverance, and the power of a meal shared after hard work. Cornbread and collards fed bodies and built resilience. Number 10. Lumberjack bean bake. Deep in the northern logging camps, the men who cut America's timber needed meals that could last. Cookhouses kept iron pots of baked beans simmering day and night, beans sweetened with molasses, packed with bacon, and thick enough to stand a spoon upright. It was simple, sturdy food that stuck to the ribs and kept workers warm through snow and exhaustion. Around long wooden tables, laughter and stories mingled with the smell of smoke and beans. This was more than dinner. It was energy that built America's forests and fed its expansion. Number 11. Ham hock and split pea soup. From factory towns to farmhouses, this soup stretched humble ingredients into hearty comfort. A single smoked ham hock flavored pots of split peas, onions, and carrots, a thick, smoky stew that could feed a family for days. It simmered quietly while men worked long shifts and children played near wood stoves. Every spoonful carried the scent of labor and love, a reminder that nourishment didn't need luxury. Ham hock and pea soup was America's reminder that thrift could still taste rich. Number 12. Cabbage and sausage skillet. When European immigrants arrived with little more than hope, cabbage and sausage became their bond, cheap, filling, and packed with flavor. Sliced sausage browned with garlic and onions, tossed with tender cabbage and a touch of vinegar, made a whole meal from almost nothing. It filled tenements with familiar smells of home. It was more than survival. It was identity preserved in every sizzling bite. This simple dish spoke many languages, but told one story: resilience, shared by those who came to build a new world. Number 13. Fried catfish and grits. In the American South, the river was both a meal and a livelihood. Families gathered at dusk, frying freshly caught catfish in cornmeal, while grits bubbled nearby. Crisp on the outside, tender within, each piece tasted of river water and hard work. It was the food of fishermen, farmers, and dreamers, a celebration of self-reliance. No restaurant menu could match the spirit of those outdoor fires and shared plates. Fried catfish and grits, the flavor of home grown from the water's edge. Number 14. Pot roast with root vegetables. When times were tough, one pot of beef and vegetables could carry a family through the week. Cheap cuts of meat slow cooked with potatoes, onions, and carrots became tender, rich, and fragrant, transforming thrift into abundance. It was often Sunday's dinner, saved for moments of rest and family unity. Around those tables, laughter mixed with steam and gratitude. Pot roast wasn't just food. It was faith that better days were coming, a taste of comfort earned through the week's labor. Number 15. Boston brown bread and baked beans. Steamed in coffee cans and served beside baked beans, Boston brown bread was sweet, dark, and dense, made from rye, cornmeal, and molasses. It was the meal of mill workers and fishermen, eaten hot on cold nights. The beans brought protein. The bread brought warmth. Together, they told the story of frugality turned into flavor. Every slice echoed centuries of tradition, proof that simple ingredients, treated with care, could feed both stomach and spirit. Number 16. Chicken and dumplings. Born from necessity during the Great Depression, chicken and dumplings stretched one bird into a feast. A bubbling pot of broth thickened with flour, topped with soft dough balls, turned scarcity into satisfaction. The aroma filled small kitchens, turning hardship into hope. Mothers stirred slowly, knowing that one meal could quiet hunger and bring a moment of peace. It was food that hugged the soul, a symbol that even in struggle, care could turn simplicity into abundance. Number 17. Pork and sauerkraut. For German-American families, pork and sauerkraut wasn't just dinner, it was tradition. Slow-cooked pork shoulder with tangy fermented cabbage represented luck and prosperity for the year ahead. The sour met the savory in perfect harmony, filling homes with warmth and optimism. From Pennsylvania farms to Midwest towns, this dish reminded families that fortune favored those who worked, waited, and believed. Every forkful was a promise that tomorrow would be better than yesterday. Number 18. Venison stew. In rural America, when store-bought meat was a luxury, the forest provided. Venison stew, made from deer meat, root vegetables, and wild herbs, was hearty, smoky, and rich with pride. Hunters brought home not trophies, but meals that kept their families alive through winter. Each pot told a story of survival, patience, and the bond between land and life. Venison stew wasn't just food. It was the taste of self-reliance and the reward for courage in the wild. Number 19. Depression-era potato pancakes. During the Great Depression, potatoes were more than a staple. They were salvation. Families grated them with onions and fried them in leftover drippings to make crisp, golden pancakes. Served with applesauce or a pinch of salt, they turned pennies into nourishment. The sound of sizzling batter was the sound of hope, proof that even in the darkest times, creativity could conquer hunger. These potato pancakes carried generations through scarcity with flavor born from endurance. Number 20. Slumgullion stew. A mix of whatever was left, bits of meat, pasta, beans, and vegetables. Slumgullion was the stew of survival. No recipe, no rules, just necessity guiding the hand. It bubbled in mining camps, tenement kitchens, and wartime homes, filling bellies when supplies ran low. The name might have sounded rough, but its purpose was noble, to waste nothing and feed everyone. Slumgullion proved that even the humblest scraps could become something worth gathering around. Number 21. Corned beef and cabbage. When Irish immigrants arrived in America, they couldn't afford the bacon used back home, so they turned to corned beef, an inexpensive cut from New York's butcher shops. Boiled with cabbage, potatoes, and carrots, it became a new kind of feast. Hearty, simple, and deeply symbolic. This dish blended old-world tradition with new-world resourcefulness. On St. Patrick's Day, and every day in between, it reminded families that adaptation was survival, and that pride could be served from a single pot. Number 22. Hobo stew. Along the train tracks of 1930s America, hungry travelers gathered around makeshift fires. With a few vegetables, scraps of meat, and borrowed cans, they made hobo stew, a communal meal born from sharing and hope. Each pot was different, each spoonful a story of someone who refused to give up. Steam rose with laughter, songs, and resilience. Hobo stew wasn't fancy, but it was freedom, the taste of survival for those chasing the promise of a better tomorrow. Number 23. Meatloaf. Few meals say American resilience like meatloaf. Born during the Depression, it took a small amount of ground beef and stretched it with breadcrumbs, onions, and eggs. Baked until crisp at the edges and glazed with ketchup, it became the dinner that kept families full without breaking the bank. It was the taste of thrift and togetherness, proof that resourcefulness could still be delicious. Meatloaf didn't just fill plates, it filled generations with pride and gratitude. Number 24. Chicken fried steak. In the Southern Plains, tough cuts of beef were pounded thin, breaded, and fried like chicken, creating a crispy, golden meal that transformed cheap meat into a feast. Smothered with peppered gravy and served with mashed potatoes, chicken fried steak was the working man's comfort food. It spoke of hard days and warm kitchens, of ingenuity that turned hardship into indulgence. From cowboy camps to diners, this dish became proof that the American dream could come served on a plate. Number 25. Macaroni and cheese. Long before box versions filled shelves, macaroni and cheese was baked from scratch, elbow pasta, milk, and a little bit of cheese stretched to feed many. It was the family favorite during tight times, creamy yet simple, warming both stomach and soul. During the 1940s, it became a symbol of frugal abundance, cheap, filling, and easy to love. Every golden crust reminded families that comfort could come from a single casserole dish. Number 26. Shepherd's pie. Adapted from British roots, shepherd's pie became an American staple during lean years. Ground meat, peas, and carrots were topped with mashed potatoes, baked until golden, and shared straight from the pan. It was the perfect everything in one dish meal, filling, comforting, and budget-friendly. For working families, this layered dish represented both thrift and creativity. Each bite was a reminder that even leftovers could be transformed into something beautiful, something that tasted like home. Number 27. Corn pudding. Before modern desserts, corn pudding was the humble comfort found on Southern tables. Made with fresh corn, milk, butter, and eggs, it walked the line between savory and sweet. During harvest season, it celebrated abundance. During hard times, it stretched simple ingredients into something special. It was a dish of gratitude, one that turned the work of the field into the joy of the table. Corn pudding fed generations with warmth, sweetness, and the taste of endurance. Number 28. Navy bean soup. For sailors in the early U.S. Navy, rations were simple: beans, salt pork, onions, and thyme. The result was navy bean soup, thick, hearty, and nourishing enough to sustain long voyages. It became a symbol of American endurance and discipline, later served in school cafeterias, army bases, and diners across the country. Every spoonful carried history, the flavor of service, sacrifice, and the steady rhythm of those who kept America moving forward. Number 29. Biscuits and sausage gravy. In the heart of the South and Midwest, early risers knew the comfort of biscuits drenched in creamy sausage gravy. Born from scarcity, this dish turned a little meat and flour into something unforgettable. It filled miners before sunrise and farmhands before the fields. The flaky biscuits and rich gravy carried the strength of those who built the nation from dawn till dusk. It wasn't fancy, but it was fuel, love, and gratitude baked into every bite. Number 30. Chili con carne. From cattle drives to mining towns, chili was the meal that kept the West alive. Simple ingredients: beans, chili peppers, beef, and tomatoes simmered together over open fires, feeding cowboys, soldiers, and settlers alike. It was spicy, rugged, and bold, much like the land itself. Chili became America's frontier spirit in a bowl, tough, adaptable, and full of heat. From Texas plains to modern kitchens, this dish remains a tribute to the grit that built a nation.